Welcome to the Texas Conflict Coach radio program. If you've ever experienced or engaged in destructive or unresolved conflict, then you know it leads to broken relationships, distrust, and damaging results. Our program will help you manage and resolve conflict effectively with strategies, valuable resources, and support. Since 2009, our radio program hosted guest experts from around the globe sharing their perspectives, experiences, and expertise while giving you food for thought. If you can't listen live, then download and listen to any of our 300-plus podcasts in our library at texasconflictcoach.com. So sit back, relax, or join the conversation every Tuesday evening, or tweet us at TXConflictCoach.
Good evening, everyone. This month, we celebrate our 4-year anniversary on Blog Talk Radio. I want to say a big thank you for listening and following us over the years and helping us grow. I also want to extend my deep appreciation and gratitude to our guests and my fellow guest hosts, interns, and my assistant, Sean Tebbett. Without them and you, this could not be possible. Now, tonight we are kicking off our series focused on the conflict that can arise in families due to issues surrounding our elder relatives, the care they often need, and the old baggage that family members hold on to that can get in the way of collaborative decision-making and what is best for our elder loved one. In our program, The Magic of Elder Mediation, we have Judy McCann-Beranger from Newfoundland, Canada. Now, elder mediation can enhance family communication skills and change the face of healthcare as we know it. It can promote dignity and respect and enhances the quality of life for all concerned. Elder mediation is a focused, preventative, respectful process, usually multi-party, multi-issue, and intergenerational, whereby a trained elder mediator ensures, as much as possible, that all who need to be are present in the mediation. Now, the mediator facilitates discussions focusing on the present strengths and assists participants in exploring their issues or concerns. Now, this form of mediation often involves the many people related to the issue, such as family members, caregivers, even organizations and agencies or any other number of service providers that's helping the family. So the person that's going to be kicking us off and really educating us about elder mediation is Judy McCann-Beranger. She is an international trainer, best-selling author, guest lecturer, and a certified comprehensive family mediator and elder mediator with the Family Mediation Canada. Judy pioneered training for elder mediators in 1994 and drafted the Code of Conduct for Elder Mediators. She sits on the Elder Mediation Certification Committee and is the past president of Family Mediation Canada and Elder Mediation Canada, and is involved in several research initiatives on elder mediation. So she's really at the forefront of this field and will really share a great deal with us. Currently, she's the chair of the Elder Mediation International Network and co-chaired 5 World Summits, with a 6th International Summit to be held this year, or at the end of the month, really, in Adelaide, South Australia. Now, Judy has twice presented Canada on the Commission of Accreditation for Rehabilitation Facilities in Washington, D.C., to develop international standards for long-term care facilities. She has been recognized 3 times by the Government of Canada for her outstanding work and is a recipient of several awards, including the Family Mediation Canada Long-Term Achievement Award, the International Sharon Elder Mediation Award, and the Governor General's Golden Jubilee Award. Phenomenal amount of work that Judy, you have been doing, and we welcome you to the show, Judy.
Thank you, Patty.
You're very welcome. Now, listeners, we are taking live callers. There's a variety of ways you could do it. You could be listening right now, but we do have the chat room open. You can certainly leave your comments and questions there. Or if you are inclined and want to ask your question live of Judy, you can call 347-324-3633. 888-978-3591, and just press 1 to let me know that you have a comment or question. Otherwise, we look forward to hearing what Judy has to say. So, Judy, say more about how you got involved in providing conflict resolution services to families, especially dealing with age-related issues that we often find, not just in our parents, but our grandparents, even siblings or spouses. How did you get started and involved?
Well, in the 90s, Patty, I was doing a lot of support, counseling, psychotherapy with families who were dealing with progressive dementias and addressing all kinds of issues like that within their families. And I was getting a lot of referrals for counseling. At the time, I was also doing family mediation and recognized that many of the families who were coming, many of the individuals, be it one or two people, that what they really needed was to bring family members together, as many as they could, to make a plan to how to best handle the situations that they were discussing and to involve more family members in the care of an older family member. So what was happening is people were coming thinking they needed counseling, and yes, they might in some respects deal with grief issues, that kind of thing. But there was another very important component that could have been lost had we not started to bring them together and address the issues in a very preventive way, and a way that family members were surprised that so many of them were willing to come together to have the discussion. And at the time, in the 90s, I worked for a board who were really understanding of what mediation was and really basically allowed that to be a core service.
Through that agency that you were working with?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Now, when you said that families seem to be embracing as a preventative way, what was allowing them to do that? Because a lot of times families will be very resistant. So what were you seeing is what was causing them or motivating them to embrace this with you?
Well, a lot of times people were coming very late. They hadn't heard about it, and they were coming when they were just exacerbated, or they were frustrated. They were at the end of the rope. There were all kinds of family members who could be involved in helping, and people were feeling that people weren't stepping up to the plate, those kinds of things. And it seemed to be that one or two family members were carrying the burden, carrying the responsibility for care. And to some, it felt like a real burden. To others, a responsibility, and so on. So by the time they came to me, they felt like, wow, we might try to get someone to the table. And there wasn't a pressure to get everyone to come and talk. It was who in your family might be willing to come and be interested about the situation. Who cares? And what are the possibilities here? So when we would look and the family members would decide on who cares about the situation and what possibilities are there, then people would be invited. And sometimes we would have around 8, on average 8 people around the table, and sometimes it could have been 20 people. Sometimes the adult grandchildren, and many times more siblings than would usually have come. And sometimes it might take 1 or 2 sessions before more people felt safe enough to come, because it was a challenge to talk about personal family issues. But people had oftentimes been so stressed by the time they came to us that they thought, I have nothing to lose, so I'll try this. And then, of course, word of mouth got around, and families told other families, and then it was less hard for them because they were starting to understand really what was happening.
Okay, good. Well, I appreciate you sharing that, and how you got started in doing this. And of course, your expertise in dealing with age-related health issues was probably tremendous in combining that with the conflict resolution work. Now, how does your work with families give you the opportunity to do preventative conflict management work? And if you will define in your mind and for listeners, what do you mean by preventative conflict management work?
Well, what it is like getting a hat before you need a hat. You know, it's looking at what are the issues that we anticipate coming up over the next while. Mom or dad are talking about moving. Mom and dad may be talking about moving. They want to move to a condo or a different residence or a warmer place. All of that. Okay, what are the things that we can do as siblings or as children or whatever to help out in this? Or one person has been diagnosed with a chronic health issue or progressive dementia or something. What are we anticipating might happen? And so it is when families come together to discuss that they then start to prepare on what they're willing to do. So preventive would often come up after the regular issues are addressed. So, okay, you've dealt with all of this. What are some things you anticipate happening now? And that's where we get into the preventive. So it's addressing the issues as early as they can be. So I'll give you an example of a family that I recently worked with. And what they said, what the ladies said, was that there wasn't much point to come together because the brothers of there were 3 or 4 sisters and 2 or 3 brothers, and the brothers didn't contact or have any contact for many years, and they believed that asking them to come together was impossible, and that they were in such different levels of acceptance with their mother's illness within the family that the ones who were willing to come didn't even have any thought at all that there was a chance they would agree to come. However, when they invited the people to come around the table, two of the 3 brothers came, and the second session, the 3rd brother called in. And then they had a sister who wasn't very involved, who didn't want to recognize the progression of what her mother was starting to go through and the decline that she was experiencing. So she had decided she didn't want to visit her mother. But it was in the mediation when they all came together and they started to connect, and they surprised each other because they all agreed to do a little piece more than they would have done before. And what the family said after in their evaluation of it, they said that they couldn't have imagined that they would have felt as close together as they did within 2 or 3 sessions. And for them, it was very preventive to a lot of things that were happening after. So within a week or 2 after that particular time, the mother had to go into long-term care. She had a serious fall. She had she had dementia in the middle stages, and they said if they hadn't come together to have those conversations, it would have been twice as hard. Because a preventive question at the end was, is there anything else that you need to talk about? And one of them came up with, well, what would happen if Mom had to go to long-term care, because some of us don't want that to happen.
That would have looked like a completely different picture if they had not had those conversations.
Exactly. And what they felt was they couldn't believe how much respect was there and the dignity that they could have for their mother at that point, and she had going in, because they had planned how they would take her in and how they wouldn't make it like they were putting her in a home and all of this. They moved her gently. They moved some of her things before she went there. They did all kinds of respectful things that probably what they said would never have happened had they not had that discussion. Because they said, what would have happened? They said, oh, my gosh, we've got to bring Mom. We're putting Mom in a home. And they would have been all grieving and all going like she was the last day they were going to see her or something. They'd all show up. Instead of that, they did it in a couple of people went, and then that night a few people dropped by, and they did it in a way that was just honoring Mom was moving from one place to another because she needed some more medical care and support. And they just commented and used the word respect so much more. They said it was a word they had never used in their regular communications with each other.
I mean, that just tells me what a powerful process this is. And then, in mediation, we talked about mediation a number of times on this radio program in different contexts. And the thing about it is, especially in this situation with elder care issues and family issues, is that everyone gets a space and a place to have a voice.
That's right, Patty. And what's really important about it is everyone is at the heart of the care. Because even people who seem like they're not contributing a lot may be in a lot of grief. And it is in the conversations with the family that they start to, okay, I'll move a little bit, I'll do this little thing. And they're not feeling judged, and they're feeling valued. And it's not about how much they're doing, it's about doing the best that they can do.
Well, and that just really, especially in your role of someone who's neutral to, you don't have a stake in any particular sibling or parent or whatever outcome, and so that allows you to really respect their perspective that they're coming in from, whether that's in denial of mom or dad's health conditions, too painful to look at, or all the family baggage that comes in. And so you provide such a valuable service that they know that they can do that without being judged. I want to let listeners know, if you're just tuning in, that we are speaking with Judy McCann-Beranger out of Canada, and we're talking specifically about the magic of elder mediation. And so Judy was just sharing with us, how really a lot of the important work comes with families, with you families. If you're listening, you have a family, and the idea is to talk about these things early on, to address these issues, anticipate what might be some needs, and have these conversations now, not until after something terrible happens and then it stirs up the family more. So, Judy, I guess my next question is that is the typical response of most families. They don't want to talk about it. We're not ready to talk about it. Why do we need to talk about it? And then, like you said in this example, a week later, mom has a fall and has to go to long-term care, and they didn't really want that to happen. But let's say a family didn't have that preventative conflict management conversation with you. The conflict then escalates, and so then there's this elder mediation. And so tell the listeners, what is elder mediation, and how do families, how do they know how to use that? Because sometimes people will hear mediation and they get it confused with arbitration, and then they're thinking it's the law and the court and the attorneys and the judges. So can you clarify some of that for folks?
Yes, Patty, you did a really good job at the introduction in talking about how elder mediation enhances families' communication skills. Sometimes builds them. They learn to communicate in new ways. And what happens in elder mediation is someone who is sensitized to age-related issues, a professionally trained elder mediator, helps the family facilitate discussions that converse on topics that they want to talk about. And they usually have one or two or three topics that are really important at the moment. And the elder mediator helps the person, the family, whoever are willing to come, decide who else could come to the table, who would be able to help. So elder mediation is it's a way to get families to see things in new ways, and maybe to let go of some communication patterns if they haven't been working so well for them. The elder mediator also helps the family stay away from tangents and go off on tangents that they may traditionally do very well. And the elder mediator really honors the expertise of each of the family members in the room, that they know how they are, and honor the fact that there may be some people who it's very difficult for them to come together because they haven't had a chance to maybe work on their own relationships. Because sometimes in families, believe it or not, there are people who don't agree with each other or don't even want to talk to each other, but they all have the parents in common, or the person or the reasons why they've come to the table. They all care about something that's at the heart of this. And I think I could give another example of that would describe elder mediation.
That would be great.
From a family participating in elder mediation. This is a quote from a person. She said, one brother who had not been able to attend our first session lived 2 hours away, and he Skyped in with both he and his wife. And this was a situation where the wife had never been involved before. But in elder mediation, we want people who are the partners and people to be involved, because the more people, the more support and help, and the less strain on any one person, especially the primary 1 or 2 people who've been carrying the load. So she said it again was so comforting to have all 5 siblings and other family members together. In the elder mediation, our goal was how to respectfully support both mom and dad. This was a remarkable event for my family. It would have been the first time that all 5 siblings were in direct contact in a number of years. Transformative, to say the least, something that just months earlier I would have said was impossible. This was from a family who her family just didn't get together. She said they weren't a close family, but both her mother and father had been in an accident, and it caused the family to have to talk. And they knew that there would have been too much conflict without the elder mediation. And in their case, the gerontologist referred them to the elder mediator. And the other, can I read one more?
Please, please.
She said in another quote here, I would highly recommend elder mediation to assist families in their efforts to help older parents. It helped bring my family together at a very stressful time and helped us move to new ways of communicating with each other. It also gave us the ability to work together to give my parents the respect and dignity they need at this time in their lives. Before mediation, we were a disconnected group, while afterwards we were a family, united and focused in our efforts to assist our parents. Today, I can sincerely say I feel better about our family, about my siblings, than ever before in my life. I am very proud of how far we have all come through our mediation sessions and the journey we have been on in the past few years with our parents. We have learned how to pull together and support each other when needed, as well as support mom and dad. That describes elder mediation very well.
Oh, my gosh. And so let me ask you this, when you were reading that, how did that make you feel when you read that and saw that and knew that you had a part in that?
Well, I guess sometimes I wonder why I'm doing, why I certainly give a lot more time and hours to promoting elder mediation, and that's why. Because I hear that after every time people involve themselves and go through the energy, I hear that always from families, that they can't believe that the difference that's in their family and how they communicate, but especially the difference for the people at the heart of the care. Oftentimes it is about promoting quality of life, not only for all of them, but for the people at the heart of the care. And everybody does that so much better if they do it together than individually. Yes,
absolutely. Now, one thing that's missing for me as listeners, and of course I know a lot about elder mediation, and yet what I'm not hearing, and I want to make sure listeners understand this, is what role does the elder person, whether that's mom, dad, grandmother, spouse, whatever, what is their role in these conversations?
Well, if they're part of it, if they're the one who calls, sometimes they could be the one who calls. So they're another person in the family, and they have a very important role. Every voice counts. And even if somebody has a progressive dementia, it's very important for the elder mediator to understand about dementias and be sensitized, because a person may have limited capacity in one area and all kinds of capacity in other areas. So it would be important, for example, to see if that person wishes to be at the table, or if indeed they're okay and have the level of capacity to involve themselves in a conversation at that level, to make sure from the elder mediator's point of view that is not going to add to the stress and of the person if they were included. So that's an assessment that people will often talk to the physician or the gerontologist or whoever is recommending. Who needs to be at the table is an important discussion.
Okay. And who makes that ultimate decision? Is that a consensus-based process about who decides, especially if the parent doesn't hold full capacity?
Oh, well, that would totally depend on if they do or not. Well, a lot of times, if there's any question, we would also involve the medical practitioner, whoever's involved there. Because the other thing we don't want to do is do harm, unintentional do harm. Have somebody there who does not have the ability to comprehend everything that's being said or retain everything that's being said, because oftentimes people with a progressive dementia are very, very honed and very, very astute with the emotional piece. So they would be still very good at reading their children's nonverbal language. They could have a sense of that. So sometimes if someone chose to have a person at the table when their capacity wasn't there and they were just picking up that their children were upset, for example, then they could be upset for 2 or 3 days, but they wouldn't quite know why, just that they couldn't retain the conversations. So those would be the things, if you didn't check out with the physician and get the okay, that if I'm in doubt, I get an okay from a physician. They write me a letter and say, yeah, they're good to, they're able to participate in this. Then there are other mediations who is just about the children, and the children come together because they want to know how to share the time and share what they have that they're willing to offer to the situation. And it's more about sharing time and that and how they're visiting and spending time and holidays with parents. It really depends on who makes the call.
Okay. So it's not just one sibling's fighting over another and they said, no, I get to make the decision. It really is a conversation with a number of stakeholders, a number of people who are involved in the care that have that conversation with you to make that decision.
Oh, yes, definitely. And it's about all of them together. It's not individually, and it's never losing. And it's not, an elder mediator doesn't entertain questions that are questions that shouldn't be on the table when we don't assume that a person, because they're 95, lack capacity. We would always assume capacity. So we don't talk about a person like they don't exist or they can't make decisions.
Yeah,
we only talk things that are relevant to what the situation is. I mean, if a person makes their own decisions, that doesn't come to the table. We assume capacity until something is proven differently.
So listeners who are listening in and they're saying, well, how in the world do I go about finding an elder mediator? So I really have a two-part question here for you, because something you said earlier is these elder mediators are professionally trained mediators. What's important about, if someone's looking for an elder mediator, why is that important that they are specially trained in elder issues? And then where do they go about finding elder mediators?
Well, the important thing is that, you could go to the Elder Mediation International Network site, eldermediation.ca, and ask the admin at Elder Mediation. And if we know of one in an area, we would certainly research that for a family if somebody was asking. The other thing is there are a lot of mediators in many, many places who are taking on some elder mediation without necessarily having specialized training, and could be very good. We don't know. That's one thing with the international network is it was basically the need from nonprofit groups, from Alzheimer national organizations, saying that they will only refer to elder mediators when they know there's elder mediators to refer to and there's a consistent, credible standard. So that was why the certification program started. So people would phone their local organization and ask, are there any people specialized in elder mediation? So we have a certification program for elder mediators which cover the important dynamics of aging. Like an absolute critical one would be around issues of ageism. Because if we weren't sensitized to issues of ageism and looking at how we ourselves could be very ageist, our questions could be influenced by that. So it's a responsibility, and again, preventing do harm. Sometimes people wouldn't even know, they don't know that they could be saying something that's very ageist and making some assumptions that are inaccurate, and that would be quite ageist. And so having the sensitivities around those dynamics of normal aging, about capacity, around all the progressive dementias and the differences of the frontal temporal dementias, for example, as opposed to the progressive, and what happens for caregivers around that. It gives you a sensitivity that families don't want to come in and have to explain and teach you about, because they're already so stressed around elder abuse and assessing for abuse issues to see whether or not you even want to start with the conversation, and looking around the community supports and living arrangements and understanding about grief and loss, because if you know you're working with a family or in the throes of hurt and grief and loss, that you do want to encourage them to seek a grief counselor. And around guardianship, legal issues, culture and aging, all those. So
there's so much.
Yes, yes.
So now you talked about the International Elder Mediation Network, which is the eldermediation.ca, which for all of those who are listening, CA being Canada, but I assume that this network reaches other countries, the U.S. and other countries, so implying international. Yes. Is that correct?
Yes, we have that. Yeah.
Because we have an international following in various countries, and so if they are looking for something in their country or in the United States, they could still go to that site and get connected in their area.
Yes, exactly. And also that every year there's a summit in some country, and we're meeting more and more elder mediators and people who are on the roster to becoming trained and certified. So it's very exciting about the potential of how people are starting to understand the differences and the nuances of what happens when people come together. Because what we're hearing a lot from families is, why didn't I hear about this before? Why didn't someone tell me about this before? And they may have had wonderful help with case managers, but case managers are very directive and focused on helping the families navigate through systems they think are best for the family, whereas elder mediation is really about drawing out the expertise of the family, that everybody around that table has some expertise to bring. The elder mediator just facilitates that and tries to create a flow within the family so they find insightful moments that are very rich and move the family to new places they might otherwise not have gone.
I'm so glad that you said that twice now, and to underscore it is that, like you said, you're looking to the family members who are experts and the parent expert of themselves and of their situation. And so that's a wonderful way of honoring their background, their experience, and what it is that they're bringing to the table versus imposing, as the elder mediator. Of course, you're neutral, but, other than like a case manager or something like that where they're imposing, and almost kind of like the lawyer who, imposes their expertise on the clients that they're working with. So I'm so glad that you've mentioned that important factor. Now, we're getting ready to come to a close. I can't believe the time has gone by so quickly. Is there anything more that you wanted to share about the role of the network and what role it plays in this field of practice?
Well, one of the basic products of the Elder Mediation International Network are an annual summit to bring as many mediators together as possible from wherever in the world. And the other one is to promote the certification program, that to promote a consistent, credible standard that people can aspire to, and that national organizations and international organizations can know that people have gone through this standard.
Well, I'm glad that the network is playing a huge role in helping, bring these professionals together to standardize the conduct, the behaviors, the way in which we practice and understanding of, age-related issues. So now, Judy, we usually begin to close the call with a call to action or an assignment for the week. What do you have for listeners out there to take the next step after they listen to this program?
Well, I think it would be really, really important for people to think about, to reflect on if there's anything in their family that they could address now that would help them communicate better as a family. Are there any relationships in the family that they could do something in the next while with regard to having a communication and with looking at it as a way of building strength, so when they have to come together for a common purpose, that they're ready to do that in a way that they could have probably not realized was possible.
Okay. So to begin first of all, to set aside that fear and anxiety or even avoidance and really start to think about and start to even begin to have those conversations, and or if they feel they need to do some preventative work, to reach out, go to the eldermediation.ca. Are there other websites you want to share at this moment or other resources that you want people to know about at this point?
Well, we'll be putting some up on that website as we go. And I think the biggest thing within families is to know that starting to communicate in new ways, talk about the difficult things. Sometimes people can talk about everything that's good, but even starting to reflect on what are 3 issues that in your family you try to avoid as a family. That might really take your energy if you have to get involved in a caring issue, for example.
Okay, good. Well, folks, definitely go to www.elder, Mediation, mediation.ca. Judy, I want to thank you so much for being part of this program and kicking off our elder care series. This is such a very hot topic area and something that we really want to educate the world about. What final message do you want to leave with listeners?
Well, I think that families do so much more together than they will individually. When they come together to plan to address the challenging situations that we're going to have too as we all get older, that our time is going to be so much better spent. And when we plan it out for family members, that we will all have a better quality of life. And we will all do so much more to mobilize and coordinate the family resources. We have so much in families that will go untapped if we don't have those necessary conversations and have somebody help facilitate them.
Okay, very, very good. Judy, thank you again so much for being part of this and helping to educate our listeners and being part of our anniversary celebration as well.
You're very welcome.
All right, good night, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Texas Conflict Coach. We hope you've enjoyed the program. You can find over 300 podcasts archived to listen at your own convenience at texasconflictcoach.com or download the podcast at iTunes or Stitcher Radio. To learn about upcoming radio programs and resources, sign up for our monthly e-newsletter.